Hi, and welcome to another PLTogether Lounge Talk. I'm Adam Geller, founder and CEO of Edthena, the video coaching platform. Today, we're joined by Daughty. He is a former elementary school teacher and now is a leader of professional development for organizations all across the United States. Andre, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it, man.
All right, so Andre, let's continue the conversation here. And I kind of want to get right into something I know you talk a lot about, and it is the issue of race in classrooms and in schools. And this has, of course, been an issue that we need to talk about, but something that a lot more people are talking about because of some of the recent events related to police brutality and police violence. So I'm curious to kind of take us into some of those conversations that you might have with a school leader or with a teacher who's struggling with how to start off this year. So let's start with that principal idea. Imagine Principal Smith calls you up, Andre, I want to make sure that I am creating the right conditions, let's say, the right conditions for my staff to really be prepared for this fall. I mean, that's a big opener. That's pretty ambiguous.
That is a little, yeah.
But how do you start guiding a school leader like that so that they can help their staff in their journeys?
Yeah, you always start internal work first. The internal work helps the external later on. And so as far as as far as staff, what are we doing with some of the biases that we may or may not have? And then having that conversation upon that. And the reason why I say that it starts with self is you could bring in an Andre Daughty, and Andre Daughty could do a phenomenal workshop with you. But if you are not open to the change, if you are not open to rethinking what it looks like to serve your students, your community, your staff, that workshop is just going to be null and void, in one ear, out the other. So it always starts with inner self work first. And that's one of the main things that we do when we have those conversations. For example, I am in education, and anytime I'm doing webinars pre-COVID at the workshops, at the conferences, doing the keynotes, I would just look around and see how many people of color were on those boards. How many people of color are in the audience? Is this a good old boys educational circle, or is this really truly diverse and open for all? And so that's some of the inner work that districts and schools really need to tackle. Am I going to be the only person of color showing up when I go to some of these schools? If so, what are we doing to create those conditions where it is more diverse? Whether it be at the administrative level or at the school level. Are the only people of color your custodians or your office staff, or are your cafeteria staff? If so, once again, that is a conversation that internally you first have to deal with before reaching out externally.
What about someone who maybe is in a community that is less diverse itself? Here we're talking about the idea of having Black educators in the building, but there's lots of different types of diversity. But
absolutely,
let's say you're in a community that's predominantly white, or for that matter, predominantly anything. What should a school leader be doing if maybe they're, sure, the idea of recruiting more people in is important work to be done, but maybe it's not possible, right? Or maybe it's not possible in the next 90 days or 120 days where I want to take action and make sure I'm not letting these issues sit fallow. So what do I do then? I still need to look inwardly, I'm hearing, but how do I start kind of creating a diverse set of awarenesses, even if I can't bring in more diverse people?
Yeah. So believe it or not, there was an actual school district that did that here in Oklahoma. Inside of this school district, they realized that the majority of their student population was Hispanic, Latinx students. And so instead of just sitting on it and saying, well, we'll wait until the fiscal next year, no, they went actively recruiting, and they went as far as Spain to find teachers and ask them, would you come over You know, we'll give you a nice package. We would love for you to come and teach because we know that our students need that. And that's what makes the diversity so amazing. Imagine being a Black student in that class, and now you are learning from a teacher from Spain. So now your cultural awareness opens up because not only are you connecting your as a young Black kid to school, but now you are hearing what school may or may not look like from a teacher from Spain. And I think that's the exact same thing that happens, that needs to happen in any school district, no matter the color, no matter the race, no matter the ethnicity. The more diverse you are inside of that school, the better your school's cultural awareness happens. So if you are a principal in the school and you are that Mr. or Mrs. Smith as principal, and you look around and you notice that the entire school looks just like you, start reaching out to your community. Start going online. Start finding people on Facebook and on IG and on Twitter and having them to talk to your parents, having them to talk to your students, have them to teach your teachers. You have PD, instead of bringing PD with somebody who may look like you, bring in PD with somebody who doesn't look like you. Those are some small things that you can do immediately. In our America, there are certain sections of the world, of the town, of cities where you do all look alike. But for principal, for administrator, go outside of those towns, find someone locally who is a teacher or who is a PD person or who is a principal, and start connecting there. I know 2 or 3 principals who are actually doing that right now, where they said, you know what, we have been only one color this way. And since race in America is a thing now, it's always been a thing, but now it's more aware, like we're wokish now. What can we do? And so that one principal from the all white school connected with several principals from the all Black school and the all Latinx school. And now they're having like this triangle conference of meeting, monthly meeting of sort, just to expose themselves to new worlds and new cultures. So any principal out there, administrator out there right now, and you're feeling that you perhaps need a look at it, all you have to do is go online. Go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of those millions of Facebook educational groups or Twitter list or any of those, and find you some educators. They are out there waiting and wanting to help, but you got to ask.
Now I'm putting together something here,
Okay.
which is, certainly the value of bringing in someone from the outside, which, you're saying in a variety of different ways. But in some respect, because of the current context of what teaching is looking like related to COVID, maybe you're in school, maybe you're not in school. In some ways, there is not that same expectation as there would have been a year ago to bring that person physically into your building or into your district. And
Right.
in some ways, the barrier has been lowered to connect with the other educators, either to collaborate or to have them as a voice of expertise in to talk with your staff. So that's a really interesting way of maybe positioning it for a school leader, which is, look, this is an opportunity to act on this right now, because you can reach out to someone in a completely different community, whether that's down the road or across the country, to bring in more perspectives into your school.
Yeah, and you assess what you value. I know that is a saying here in Oklahoma, where a lot of people say, well, the reading and the math scores are what we really value, so we're going to make sure that we assess that. Well, that's the same thing with your culture. It's the same thing with race in America. If you know that is a deficit, if you know that is an issue, then you will assess that and you will work, and based upon that, you will grow from that. If that's not of value to you, you won't. And so in America right now, it should be a major value. It should be a major concern. And so I really want to just challenge your audience to start doing that work and continue doing the work, because that work is so needed in our America right now, especially when it comes to terms of race and ethnicities.
It's interesting. You're kind of pointing out that if, as a school leader, you aren't creating conversations about this or creating opportunities for more diverse views to come in, that's going to filter into, you kind of said you're not going to, you got to measure what you want to manage kind of thing, right? Like if you're not talking about it, then people aren't going to perceive it as a priority, even though in our society, this may be more of a priority in this moment than it has been before.
Yeah.
So we still have to do the work. We can't expect that the context around us is going to suddenly change what's happening within our school buildings.
And that is just something that your students have already seen. Your students are on social media 80 to 90% of their day. And so they have seen race in America. They have heard of all of the stories, no matter it be from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor, or it could be Tamir Rice. They have heard these stories. They have seen these videos. They have questions. They want to know about race in America. They want to see, like, are these stories really true? Is it that a Black person may be treated differently than a white person? And to come to school, to be in a school setting, and you never bring that up, and you bring everything else but that up, this is something that is happening. This is something that principals and administrators and teachers must be ready for. The great equalizer is the internet. You get a lot of fake news on there, but you also get a lot of truths. And so today students are coming with questions. They are being woke or woke-ish. I remember one teacher explaining to the class that George Washington was a great founding father, which he was. But George Washington was also trash, which he was. And that hurts us as people who love America. That hurts us to know that we grew up, he never ever told a lie. He chopped cherry tree. Like, we've heard all of the stories and all of those things. And the dentures were even at the Smithsonian at once. But we never talk about whose teeth were in those dentures. And that's a race in America conversation. We never talk about if George Washington had slaves. That is a race in America conversation. And that is something that our students today are learning. And so our educators, we have to be equipped and be ready to have those conversations and to teach the truth in curriculum about that. And once again, if that is an uncomfortable conversation to have, you've got community leaders and community members willing to have those conversations. If they're not willing to have it, you've got people online. Call me. I will help you with that conversation as well. Those conversations are rough, and they're supposed to be, because our America was not glossy. Our America was rough. I know one second grade teacher, and I know I'm carrying on, I'm sorry, but I know one second grade teacher who she will not do Columbus Day. She won't. She will not teach about how Columbus came in 1492 and everything was nice and pretty and happy. No, she tells the truth. How Columbus raped people and how he brought over disease. Now, this is age appropriate, so she won't explain what STD he brought over, but she says he brought over disease and gave it to those indigenous people and gave it to the natives who were already here. And so decolonizing what this history looks like at an elementary level only helps us with race in America. Because if you don't decolonize it, then over those years of growth, you'll see that one race is always better than the others without understanding why one race was better than the others or how the systems were created for one race to be better than the others. If the only time you are talking about race in America is during Black History Month, you failing. I love you, but you're wrong. You're failing as an educator. So this race in America is something really, really powerful. And this is the moment to jump into those conversations. This is the moment to read how to be an anti-racist. This is those moments how to jump in. And once again, if you need help, there are plenty of educators just waiting to have that conversation. But we want to see you doing that work as well.
A lot there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm my job is to process and summarize here. So let me take a stab, which is if I think about the original question, preparing for the school year, you said, be ready to look inward first.
Correct.
And then I think kind of what we're thinking about when we think about what's happening in the classroom is the reality that these conversations are going to come up. You're not going to be able to avoid them because students, they've already kind of discovered the truth on their own, more than decades ago, where you had to turn on the nightly news as your only source of information. every day. Now students are learning all about the world around them, and they are going to ask those questions. It's not an if, but a when. So you can prepare by looking inward first.
Correct. And then from there, just being open to the fact that our America as a whole isn't as clean cut as the books and the curriculum teaches us. We've got to be willing, like, to live in Oklahoma and to hear educators say that they've never heard of the Tulsa massacres from 1921 until they watched it on HBO, The Watchmen. That was a shock to them. You're talking about a culture shock. These are plus 50-year-olds, plus 60-year-olds hearing this for the first time. And now they're wanting to ask questions. And they're like, why was this not in our curriculum? Exactly. That's the conversations we need to have. And so we can no longer run away from those conversations, but jump in. We call it leaning in, where you just kind of tip in, and it may be a little scary. It may be a rough conversation. We may need to do it offline, where we can have some wine in our hand or whatever, but you got to have those conversations because your students have the internet, and the internet shows those historical books where they can read and find out that the Tulsa massacre wasn't a riot. They will find out that there were people who were using military aircrafts bombing that Black section of that town called Greenwood. There is historical evidence of that. It was not fake news. And so we as educators have to be willing to not only accept it, but to be able to address and teach the truth. And that's race in America in a nutshell right now.
I like that idea of leaning in, being ready to engage, even if it takes engaging a couple of times, even if that every person's progress on these topics can be at whatever rate is good for them. That the important thing here is to be willing to do some work. I don't want to say the work, because that leaves it like you got to do all of it right at once, but some work is the important first step. Andre, we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. These are big topics and very important right now for everyone. So I thank you for sharing your perspective and your thoughts on this. If you're listening to this conversation and you want to hear more, head to pltogether.org. Andre, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.